Development Plan Action Committee will now come to order. So today is Thursday, April 23rd, and the time is 5:01. This meeting is being held in person and via interactive conference technology. The meeting is also being recorded and will be posted to the Planning Department's YouTube channel. Sunshine Law reminder for remote members, please keep your camera on. Also, please state for the record where you are participating from and whether anyone is in the room with you except for minors. So roll call, Leilani DeMello, Vice Chair.
Aloha, present.
Stephanie Beth.
Here.
Jennifer Scheffel. Okay, absent. Franny Brewer.
Here.
Leila Kealoha.
Aloha, present.
Okay, and maybe Leila, do you want to answer the questions? Do you have anyone, where are you participating from, and anyone's in the room with you?
I'm participating from Oku Hawaiian Homesteads, and I just have my 2 minor children with me.
Okay, mahalo.
Thank
And then
you.
we also have with us Planning Department staff, Janice Hata in person, Marianne Palma in person, and Jessica Lahip. Is that how you say? Then, okay. Zoom, mahalo. Okay, so housekeeping and meeting etiquette. Please ensure that your cell phones are silenced. If you're here in person and wish to testify, please complete a sign-up form and provide it to the staff. If you're joining via Zoom and you'd wish to testify, please use your raised hand feature or send a message in the chat to the Zoom host indicating the agenda item you wish to speak on. All speakers are asked to clearly state their name for the record before beginning their testimony. And for those attending in person, please direct your comments towards the owl. This is the owl right there, the black thing in the middle, before beginning your testimony. And for those attending in person, please direct your comments to the owl and so that the Zoom participants can clearly hear you. So aloha etiquette for today's meeting. As a reminder, we strive to conduct our meetings in the spirit of aloha, maintain an open and positive attitude, mai namu namu, listen to understand, respect that everyone has the right to share their ideas and feel comfortable doing so. It is acceptable to disagree, but please do so respectfully. Focus on the issue, not on the individual. One person speaks at a time with no side conversations. Minimize distractions by silencing cell phones and refraining from outside work during the meeting. And in consideration of everyone's time, please adhere to the established time limits, which by the way is 3 minutes. I'm a stickler for that. So now the time is 5:04. The committee will consider approving the draft minutes from the February 26, 2026 meeting. If there are no corrections, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Mahalo Lei. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? No, okay, it passed unanimously. So the time is now 5:04. We will now take public testimony on items that are on today's agenda. As noted on the agenda, members of the public may testify now or when a specific agenda item is called to order. Testimony will be limited to 3 minutes. Please keep comments to matters within the committee's scope and related to the item you're addressing. And if there's anyone here who would like to testify, please fill out the testimony form on the front table and give it to our staff. Okay, I know I have one here, but that will come for the end, a new item. Does anybody else wish to testify now? Okay. Okay, so seeing nobody, I guess. Am I going over this?
Yes, we can read that. This is technically a new section of the agenda, so there's a little background here.
Okay.
But then you can invite.
Okay, sorry, I haven't seen this before, so this is a new thing. Third-party reports government officials pursuant to Hawaii Senate Bill 405 in 2025, signed into law as Act 72. The committee may receive and discuss information from third-party reports by any government official not included in a publicly noticed agenda. The AC may only make decisions on matters originally raised by third-party reports from any government official at a later meeting where the agenda provides notice of decision-making on the matter. This evening, Patty Pinto will share a connectivity update. Do you want to do that now, Patty? That's okay? Okay. Okay, so I'd just like to introduce everyone to Patty Pinto, and she works with the the county recovery division, and she has been working for probably over a decade, years and years, with incredible heart and soul and passion and focus on this connectivity issue. So it's something that's really important to all of us, and just want to really thank you for your work, Patty, and we look forward to hearing your update. Mahalo.
Thank you. I'm Patty Pinto, and I'm going to give a report on Puna Road's connectivity. This may be one of the first things from the Puna Community Development Plan that actually gets implemented. Kind of a
Wait, I
weird-
saw Larry the other day at Home Depot. He wouldn't want to hear you say that. Larry Brown.
So a couple of months ago, we met with the Department of Public Works, Neil Acevedo and his team to go over the Puna Road connectivity points that we could implement in the coming year. And we decided on 3 points of connectivity that will provide access to 4 additional subdivisions to get more than one road in and out. So we take them up to Highway 11. And those are the Puhala extension, it's called. It's a road goes between Fern Acres and Kopua farm lots and connects up with Kopua Road. That will give access for Hawaiian Acres, Fern Acres, Kopua farm lots, and Eden Rock. Will give them a second road in and out of their subdivisions. So they have submitted construction plans and right of entry. We just received our right of entry thing, and this is where we ran into this issue with the road lot not being in the title is not in the name of the subdivision. So the right of entry has to go to Corporation Council to be approved. The Articles of Incorporation of the Fern Acres Community Association give it full responsibility for the maintenance of the road, and we believe that's going to be able to work as it did in Hawaiian Acres when they did a road, and a couple of Leilani has had DPW fully accept their responsibility for the maintenance. So we think this is going to go smoothly. I just would like to say one more time that I wrote legislation last year that was passed in the state in the state Senate that will enable subdivisions who do not have title to their roads, and there are about a dozen of these in Puna, to assume title if the corporation that founded their roads has been dissolved for more than 5 years. So this coming year is when all of the subdivisions will need to begin work on this, because you have to have a year notice to your community that you intend to do this. So we'll be sending out information on that to all the subdivisions that will be impacted. So that, and then it makes it very simple. You just go in and transfer the title to the subdivision that's maintaining the roads.
So that legislation was approved.
Yes, it passed. So then the second point of connectivity is on Kaliponi between Eden Rock and Fern Forest. And this should be really easy as long as the 2 community associations, we get them on a good day and they agree to it. And this is a very short and easy communicating section. It's about maybe 200-300 feet, and that just needs to be cleared and dozed. And then the third is a connection from Ola'a Road that will go to the top of Hawaiian Acres and Orchid Land, and make an extra connection there between Highway 11 and those 2 subdivisions. And that Neil has begun work investigating how that can happen using existing roads and improving them. So we think that that is going to be coming, but it'll be the third one. And then with the community associations that have a disagreement, the county will not negotiate between those associations. It's really up to the associations to put on their adult garments and make an agreement to improve the life of the people who live in those subdivisions. And that's it, and we'll just keep working on it. Thank
So
you.
is the funding all there for those projects? Is it the bond
Yes,
funding?
this
that-
is cheap.
Patty, clarification on the Ola'a. did I hear you say from Ola'a to the top of Hawaiian Acres? Are they using the old volcano trail?
They're going to cross it, but not use it.
Okay.
You're
but-
allowed to cross it.
Okay, so it's going to be going up that side.
They don't know, if you go down a lot,
Yeah,
if you go towards Volcano, there's some roads that go down that way and they might look at that. Or they might come directly from Ola'a and make another connector. That's all up in the air.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Good job.
Amazing, Patty. Thank you so much. So that wouldn't preclude you from going to a community association meeting? Okay, thank you. Okie dokie. So now the time is 5:12 and we're going to move on to committee business. We have an informational presentation by project representatives regarding the proposed project and its relevance to the Puna Community Development Plan with the Kea'au Benioff Health Center project presentation. What is that dinging going on? That's not like a 3-minute. Oh, okay.
As people
I was like
join,
thinking, are they trying to get? I thought I had the 3-minute timing. Yeah. Well, lucky we don't have that many testifiers. And then if they behave badly, I'll make sure to keep the owl in that direction. No. We'll switch it. Thank you, Patty. So let's see, do we have any public testimony on this item before our presentation? Okay, seeing none. Public testimony for this item is closed. And so we don't have any, and there's no action item on this. It's just a presentation. So. Oh, it's Dan. Hey, Dan. Wonderful to see you. Gee, we get Dan, the
Hello.
main man.
Wow.
Thank you.
That's very nice. How can you beat that? Well, thank you everyone for having me and inviting me to speak to the committee. First time here. It's interesting how you guys are all appreciate your involvement. Just a little bit about me. I've been in Big Island since 2007. I actually have a son-in-law, two son-in-laws, one from Pahoa and one from Kea'au. So learned a little bit, so I have a vested interest a bit into what goes on down in Puna. And actually a lot of what we do here, it does really matter. I have a pretty large family, and I think like many of you, the things we do here really affect the people we care about. And so you're going to make me do that, aren't you? You're like, let's see. Actually, what I do is I hook my finger. Okay. How about that? Okay. All right. That better? I know she's like bows her head and like, oh, I'm embarrassed. But anyway, but I'm glad to share this with you tonight. I don't know if we'll be able to put something up on the screen or not, or no? All right.
Yes, we should be able to.
Well, I'll just tell you a little bit about the project. So I don't know how many of you are really familiar with how our hospital system is set up, but basically we're a region of Hawaii Health Systems Corporation. So we have Hilo Benioff Medical Center, Ka'u Hospital, and Honoka'a Hospital. What's I think a really good thing about them that back in 2009, most of the operational control of the hospitals, the management, and the I guess the priorities are set by your local board. So everyone, I think you probably know a lot of the members of the board, and that's who decide how the money's invested, where we end up building, and what we do, and so forth. So your local representative really do decide how your healthcare dollar is spent. So a piece of this, it has been a strategic initiative of the board to develop infrastructure in Puna. Now, like a lot of just hearing you talk about your community plan, it takes a long time to do these things. We actually were talking about what we could do in Kea'au back in 2015. So, we're at 2026. But we've, I think been able to get a lot of traction, and like a lot of things, you can have good ideas, but putting together the whole package to get something of significance done is pretty challenging, right? But when it happens, I think we feel like we got to make the best of it. So I could probably talk through it, but
Why don't you give them another minute? Why don't you give a little bit about yourself?
about myself? Wow.
Put you on the spot.
Clinically, I was actually a nurse for a long time. I was a ICU nurse, worked in cardiac and ER and so forth. Got into management. I worked in Colorado Springs, a couple of hospitals for, I think I was there for almost 8, 9 years. I worked at Vanderbilt University Medical Center for about 5 years and then came here in 2007. So I was the head nurse here for 8, 9 years, and I was the chief operating officer, and I've been the CEO since 2014. So this has kind of been, I know the place. I kind of know how we've evolved. Um, been, it's been a very interesting journey, and I don't know, delivering healthcare on a neighbor island is just the most unique thing ever. But if you can get something accomplished, I think it feels really good. And I think maybe have killed enough time to get to our presentation here. All right. So when we were first, two more things. All right. Well, I can tell you what you're going to see. A piece of it is when we were honestly putting together almost a pitch to get funding for this project. It's a very large project and a lot of money. We kind of believe that, you can talk, but most people respond to things visually, and video is the medium. So we've put together a video, which really is the same one we've been using now for about the last 3 or 4 years. And it, I think, speaks to the need and why building something here in KL for the Puna region is actually quite special and certainly well needed. See the pitch I just made, then I was supposed to turn and you would get to see it.
Well, so it's obviously Benioff's funding has been really significant. How did you hook him?
You know, boy, that's probably a longer discussion. Um, Actually, they reached out to us. So probably given the short story of it, the Benioffs actually quietly had been giving a whole lot of money to the island, but did it mostly anonymously or without wanting their name out there. And I, for whatever reason, I'm sure it was personal reasons, decided to be more public about it and to, in their minds, make a difference here. And I think some of it was when they moved here after COVID and made this their primary home and base, that they, I think, felt more of a connection to the island. Before that, they were mostly based out of San Francisco and would kind of treat Hawaii as a second home. I think those things flipped. And with that, I think they wanted to make some big investments, not only in their backyard, but on the island. There was a lot of surprise that they didn't invest in Kona in North Hawaii and they went to Hilo. I understand some of it is when you want to make a really big splash or something, you really need to be sure that the organizations have the infrastructure to actually deliver on, quote, the big ideas. And, we had been growing, and I think it was a testament to our team and our board that I think we were in a position where they felt we could take the money that they could offer and do something with it. And I would agree with them, but we didn't go out for them. They actually approached us. And then you go through quite the process of actually getting to know them as individuals, because most of their giving, at least in my getting to know them, is very heart and emotion based. When you have that much money, honestly, you can do about anything with it. I think they wanted to do something that, like all of us, make us feel good and we feel like we're making a difference. So, I've gotten to know them quite well. As far as getting money for KL Benioff, we've been kind of working on this idea where philanthropy donates and the state kicks in, and we as an organization also contribute some of our operational funds. And actually there are more pieces to it, but we really have to put a package together to get anything of size done. And that actually got some resonance with both the governor and with Mark and Lynn. So when they were talking about putting 50 million in, well, why don't you put in 50? And we were able to get funding for basically the expansion at the hospital. Well, I figured, what the hell, let's talk about what if we did something in KL and could we do the same thing? But we were looking at doing something smaller and leaning probably about a quarter of the size of what we're looking at here. But why not try to make a big difference, right? And so, we pitched this idea in this video with the Benioffs, and they were, yeah, but what's the state going to do? Can they match? So after a lot of get into all the politics of it, the governor agreed to make that a priority. So you had the 25 from the Benioffs, the 25 from the state. Well, now you've got $50 million for a project. Now, of course, like everything else, the price keeps going up, right? So like one of the places we looked originally, we didn't look honestly at commercial land. We looked to something that was a little more in town and had infrastructure to keep the costs down. But honestly, that didn't go too well with the community for a number of reasons. And then likely in the long run, I actually wouldn't say likely. I believe in the long run, it's better where we're ending up. But it's a lot more expensive because you got to bring in all that infrastructure, the road, the water, the power. So the cost has actually gone up. By the time we're done, we're probably looking at closer to an $80 million project than a $60 million project. Will it be worth it? I think, heck yeah, it'll be worth it. But it's been quite the journey, but I'm feeling pretty good about it. So now can I do this? All right. So finally, after all that, okay, here we go.
Hawaii, a district full of life, brimming with potential, yet facing a critical challenge: local access to quality healthcare. And if we want its people to thrive, it's time to improve access to healthcare and make it a top priority. Study after study has shown that Puna needs more investment in infrastructure, housing, food security, transportation, and medical care. As a part of our strategic plan in East Hawaii, we are working on a solution, and we're proud to introduce the Kea'au Benioff Health Center. This health center will be built in the heart of the Puna region and will provide outpatient care for everyone from Pahoa to Pahala. We're bringing quality health care directly to the people who need it most. Just imagine a one-stop health center opening in 2028 where Puna residents can access primary, urgent, and specialty care along with advanced diagnostic imaging services. Additionally, the center will offer wellness and behavioral health care, focusing on the entire island. The estimated cost for this highly consequential health center is over $70 million. Here's where we need your help. To make this vision a reality, we can get there through a partnership between Mark and Lynn Benioff, Hawaii Health Systems Corporation, and the state of Hawaii. Your support will bridge the gap in healthcare, bringing a brighter future to countless individuals in the fastest growing district on Hawaii Island. Imagine the difference the Kea'au Benioff Health Center will make. Families no longer struggling to access specialists.
Is it
A
on now?
behavior and mental health center for the whole island. Children receiving vital developmental services, and Kupuna getting the care they deserve to live a long, fulfilling life. It's time to bring healthcare to Puna. Their health matters. They matter. A healthier Puna is a healthier Hawaii Island. We're ready to get to work. Please consider supporting this worthwhile endeavor.
So I think as Elena was saying, if you want to watch it, you can. It's on a YouTube channel. I think you just put it in your Google. But I don't think it would be anything. A lot of this was to show Oahu legislators and folks like the Benioffs who really haven't spent any time in Puna what we were talking about and why it was important. So you're going to be like, yeah, whatever. Okay, we already know this. But it was, I think, very valuable. And I think when people, the reason we usually show it, it just gives you an overview of what we're trying to accomplish. So let's
Can you
flip
just
through-
tell us where, because so I was sorry, I was distracted with this. Give us sort of where's the location, which I think is right here.
Yeah,
and-
we're getting to that.
Oh, okay.
So if we can flip through the PowerPoint, I think we should answer just about all your questions. Are we ready? Yeah. Oh. What? That's fine, perfect. All right, so are you gonna drive for me then? So, yeah, will you drive for me? All right, great. So, so before that, that was the video. But basically, you know, our vision is a little bit of what I was talking about at the beginning, but we wanted to create a place that was of healing and connection and community. That was focused on family for children and adults, right? So we intentionally, a lot of our clinics are more adult focused, but we felt like we also had to have a focus on the pediatric population. Go to the next slide. So the community impact, for a lot of the reasons that you probably already know, but we want to definitely get more local health care. So right now, with the exception of the urgent cares and Hawaii Island Family Health Centers, yes. They have locations here, but for so many things, you have to go to Hilo. So part of what we want to do strategically is get more services. There definitely is a travel burden, obviously sitting in traffic coming down and going back, that's an issue. Definitely creates local jobs. Healthcare, honestly, we're probably the biggest economic driver when it comes to employment, and I think having more jobs, healthcare jobs in local communities really helps. The community resilience as far as establishing a base where you can grow and have other industries and basically support your community better. One of the questions people always ask, well, what do you have for healthcare? So it's one of those ingredients you really have to check if you want to have some growth, and you also want to have a strong community. And then as far as strengthening partnerships with schools, police, fire, and business, healthcare is one of those core functions that you have to have, just like police and fire in schools. It's natural that you'd want to integrate and be supportive of those, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we get further in the presentation. So this is what it looks like. I mentioned that when you saw the video and so forth, but we'll talk a little bit more of why it's designed the way it is. It's a single story structure, and hopefully it'll blend in well with the community. How we put this all together, I was alluding to some of that, how we have to package things and so forth to make things happen and, you know, in real life. This is a partnership between the East region of Hawaii Health Systems Corporation, which most people just call it Hilo Hospital because that's kind of where most of the people and the services are. So Hilo Hospital, certainly WH Shipman. We'll get into more where this is located, but we couldn't be doing this without the partnership with them. Certainly the governor and the legislature have been big proponents of this. Your local legislators, you know, Joy San Ventura, Chris Todd, Lee Loy, Iligan. I probably get in trouble if I forget any of them, but they've been very, very supportive. Plus the Hilo reps, Senator Inouye and Cush and all have really rallied around this idea. So you can't get this done without that type of support, and the Benioffs certainly have been kind of a catalyst to get this moving. The Kimo Alameda, our mayor, have been very supportive in a lot of the work and permitting that it takes to get this done, and they, I believe, also want to do some things in a similar time frame to us when it comes to fire and police. And then, of course, more to come here, but work and relationships with local schools, first responders, and business communities are something that I think we need to do more with, and I think that will come as we get this to be more of a reality. So far as where the project is, so everybody knows where Shipman Park is. The papaya fields up there on the left, well, on the right, depending on which way you're going. That actually, I believe, is part of the community development plan to be a commercial area where a lot of support services and stuff was designed to eventually be built. So I don't want to overstate it, but I think what we're putting there is what was planned to put there, right? we'll show a little bit more how you can access it and what the planning is for that. We originally were looking down here around, we were working with the Higashis in a development there to get like a 7-acre space, but again, didn't work out. So we'll just move on from that and talk about this one, okay? All right, so let's do the next one. Well, it was a good learning experience, and people ask, well, why would you be down there? Well, it was bluntly a lot cheaper to build there, okay? So as far as how you would get there, this is Shipment Park and the main intersection Foodland. I think this right now is a pretty close to defined access road. Our Shipman's architects are working on the details of this, but this is the actual siting, and it can give you some perspective of where it will sit. I want to note that it's a 20-acre site. The project doesn't really require 20 acres, and we were really excited to get this because it allows us to have more of a campus and the ability to put other healthcare on, as well as the needs grow and so forth. We can talk a bit about what could potentially be there. We'll initially use probably about 7 of the acres, but actually, even though the 7 will be there, we probably could use a little. Well, we could put buildings closer. I don't want to get into all the technical details, but there's a lot of opportunity for this space.
I can't hear anything from the
next one,
boardroom.
please. So the size of it, single story. We intentionally didn't do a stack like a lot of the buildings in Hilo. We're certainly not a metropolis. We go up more. The office buildings we built there are all 2.5 stories. This is single. We felt it would fit more into the community landscape, even though it's a bit more expensive to build because you have bigger foundation and so forth. But single story. And if you are interested, the architect answered one of your questions about how and why it was designed, and there was a lot of consideration to our climate, our geography, and the general building aesthetic that's here in the community is why it's designed the way it is. As far as when we hope to get it done, and that date actually is holding pretty well, even though it's probably more toward the end of 28, maybe early 29, if we can get all our permitting and everything covered. But I think that is absolutely realistic. As far as staffing, this would probably be after being in operation a year or two. I think we'd get to full utilization there, around 100 employees and 25 or so plus providers. This operation times, that depends on the services in there, but there will always would be, in our opinion, an urgent care that works 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And right now we're running around a cost estimate of around 80 million. So it's gone up a bit.
Our general
So
counsel,
if we could go to the next one.
our public policy manager, Deja.
So I always
Ostrowski,
mention
our
this,
public
and
policy
I kind of
advocate, McKenna
wish I
Woodward,
could say it
our
a little
compliance
different, but
archaeologist,
there's
Kamakana
not
Ferreira,
plans for an emergency
direct-
room. And I really feel like I need to explain that to people, but if right now I grab my chest and I just went pale and I hit the floor, you would go, well, why not an emergency room right over there? But when I went over there, they would go, whoa, no, put him back in the ambulance and take him up where he can fix you. So anything that's in an ambulance, in most cases, you should consider an emergency. And if it's an emergency, you should treat it right away. And to treat it right away, you need a hospital full of stuff to treat it. So even though it sounds great to have an ER, wouldn't want one there which will just take longer to get people to the care they need. Okay. So that doesn't mean that we couldn't have, and our plan is to have what I would call an enhanced urgent care, where you can do things where people come, maybe you have that stomach pain or whatnot, you can get your CT done, you can decide if you need more or less. And by having imaging on site, there's a lot more that you can handle safely. But we want to make sure the community knows, and certainly EMS would know, we don't accept ambulances. Okay. As far as what would be located in the building, and I'll go a little more about the layout, but a big piece will be primary care. That's what we really need in communities. And then there's also a side where we could have specialty care. And what I mean by that is not that we would move the specialty services we have in Hilo down to Keal. What we would probably do is have specialty day or specialty hours for the various clinics. So if you need to go see ortho, you don't necessarily have to go to Hilo. You could see that in Keal, but but not to move all those services there. So we would have to figure that piece out. We also plan to have, most of you have been to Puna, Hawaii, right? Up in Hilo, where you do your outpatient imaging. If you think of that facility, something similar would be in this one as well. So we plan to have initially X-ray, ultrasound, and CT, and potentially mammography. So, you know, for those of you who, right now we do WIC up in Hilo, but that not initially, but that's in our closer range plan. And then we also have designed it where the population grows to a certain point, we would add on MRI. Initially, we won't, because we actually have a formula of how many MRIs you need for the population. But as it grows, you have to add one to keep up. We would put it here, but again, not initially. And then, of course, behavioral health, and I'll talk a bit about that. But I just think that outpatient preventative behavioral health is just chronically absent. And so a piece of this, we deal with a lot of the downstream effects when people are in crisis, or they show up in our ER and are homeless. And a lot of them, if you would have caught them early, they'd never end up there in the first place. So our goal is to not just provide that service for East Side, but eventually for the island. If any of you have interfaced with mental health care these days, a lot of it is telehealth. A lot of behavioral patients prefer that because it's less stressful. And we think it's very realistic that if we can concentrate those providers in a center, they can serve via telehealth and others the whole island. So you may not know, but we have in Puna Kai, we have a practice now, and we've been adding, we have a psychiatrist, a couple of psychologists and NPs, and we're trying to build a practice there that we would move into here. You go to the next slide. So this is the layout. This is one side of the building. So if you think of the building as in 2/3 and 1/3, this is a 2/3 side. It has imaging, urgent care. You can access primary care and support. I think this is specialty, urgent care, primary care, and imaging. Oh, excuse me. Urgent care, imaging, primary care, and specialty. So that is more what you would call in your mind, the clinic side of things. And then if you go to the next slide, the other third of the building is outpatient behavioral health for adults and children. So just a couple more comments on that. What it's not, we don't care for people in crisis here. It always concerns folks that, you know, is this where you're going to lock up patients? Or are you going to have people that are going to be a risk to the community? Just speaking bluntly, people have concerns, right? And you need to be set up well to handle those types of patients and their needs to do it safely. And like at the hospital, we are. In a community setting, the idea is no, you handle people for their preventative, for their chronic management, so they don't get in crisis. I just want to put that out there. Half of the side is for children and the other half for adults. I think we have a picture of kind of what it will look like. These are actuals. If you go, yeah. So quite beautiful. And the spaces are designed to work in the behavioral environment. They're calming. There's a lot of intent behind it. It's a little different from if you've gone into a clinic, it's basically reception in rooms and we get you in, get you out, right? This is designed much more intentionally. So we feel very good about that. Next slide. Another picture. This is the behavioral health side. So a lot of attention to locally appropriate decoration. Now, see if decoration is the right word, but yeah, kind of. The aesthetics and that they actually blend into our environment here and what's important. So the construction timeline, this is what we use in our operations to follow where we are. But these are the main steps that we need to adhere to be able to open. Like I said, we're probably 3 or 4 months behind this general schedule, but I still think that it's possible we can hit this. Most of our other steps are roughly on track. The bureaucracy in the state is just another level, but hey, it is what it is. We're going to get good at it. But it does take a lot of time to get the various state, county, and other types of approval so you can build the project. So we anticipated, some questions. We learned some from our initial foray into a location and tried to answer some of the questions. We have done traffic studies. WH Shipman also has done some as well. So this is something I think we take very seriously. Something to remind folks, when you build a center like that, unlike some other businesses, it's a steady incremental flow all day long. You go for your appointment, you leave. You come in, you leave. You go to urgent care, you leave. It's not where you get, like some businesses, like at the hospital, we get this deluge of people in at 8, and a deluge going out, and they're all there all day. So what that does is spread out the traffic. So even though you do get a pretty steady flow, you don't overwhelm it like you do at rush hour here. So in general, we're not too concerned about the traffic impact, but I bet if eventually that becomes a full commercial development, that may become an issue, but then that's an issue for another day. So, um, Janice, I think I did get that right. Jan. No. Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Janice. You sent questions in ahead of time for us, and so we took the opportunity to actually write out our responses. But these were the ones that we were asked, and if you guys are all right, I'll just read them because I imagine it'll take care of some of the questions probably in the audience. So one of them is, are we going to build a hospital? And if so, is there a general timeline? And I thought a lot about how to answer it, but I felt it was best to just be straight up and say, I don't think you're ever going to have a hospital there. And the reason for that is in the healthcare industry, they really need a certain amount of population to support them. And they can't be too close together. Or if they are close together, you better have a high concentration of people. So Hilo Benioff serves about 120,000 people on this side of the island. If you put and we have the one in Ka'u and in Honoka, if you put another similar hospital, neither one of them could thrive. They would probably actually both fail. And then the other question is, could you ever get the money it takes to build a hospital? Hospital will cost you $500 million these days. That's for a little one. So odds are, and realistically, probably no. I wouldn't say probably, just probably no. We've been asked, could you get a critical access hospital here? And the rules are such that where it would be too close to what they call a tertiary or a PPS hospital. So you couldn't put a CA like you have in Ka'u in Puna. And the reason we know that is we tried to see if we could. Okay. PCMC, when we took over that facility here 8 or 9 years ago, that was one of our first things. Could we turn it into a critical access hospital? And fortunately, no. What you can have is an outpatient center like we have here, and kind of in alignment with our view, everything that you should get in a reasonable outpatient manner that doesn't require a hospitalization, I think you should have in your local community. And if you need to go to the hospital and be hospitalized and have procedures, you probably do need to drive 20 minutes up the road and have it done there, and probably would be safer because of all the infrastructure that you have up there. And maybe it's 20 minutes on a good day. Okay. If you go Sunday morning, all right, well, a half hour. But I just wanted to be honest about that one. What ways will the Helial Benioff Center, or here the KL Benioff Medical Center, support employment and career pathways to high school students in KL? So right now we do a lot of training programs with Waikea in Hilo, and I believe KL sends up some of their kids for you, right? And I think Waikea has a health sciences track, and so we do a training program with them and actually offer some employment opportunities. I don't see any reason why we couldn't do that here, but likely they would be more along the medical assistant line because of the type of services you could get exposed to here. But I think, sure. I mean, I think we could do that. We probably wouldn't reinvent the wheel. We would just expand what we've learned and what we do at the medical center to do in this facility as well. How the medical center assures staff are appropriately trained to serve the local community and understanding local traditions, values, and communication styles. And I thought a good bit about this, and over half our staff are from here. I mean, they are over half our patients are from here, from Puna. I think a lot of the staff that work up in Hilo are going to apply and want to work there. So I have a feeling you'll be caring for your own people. So I'm hopeful from a staff perspective that you'll be very comfortable with all those traditions. Now, the providers that we bring in, we actually go through a process to try to get people to understand our styles, the culture, the different traditions and so forth, and to provide care in a respectful way and where you can communicate. That's a bit of an art, but we're intentional about that. We actually have classes that people have to go through, and some get very good at it very quickly, and honestly, some don't. But we make the effort, and we would continue to do that here. In the stuff that we provided, and I think would be available for the committee, our architects actually have a landscape designer that basically lays out how they selected the plants and what's going to actually be in the facility is already designed. So you can see basically a mix of of indigenous and non-indigenous plants. And a lot of that depends perhaps on your particular view of, what is indigenous and is not. They look at it as that we needed a mix, but they also want the colors and the upkeep and so forth to fit in a facility. But you can read that. It's actually about a page and a half describing it if you're interested. We are not planning to have all, but I think approximately half of them are indigenous plants. So what partnerships are being established to demonstrate the medical center's commitment to being a long-term community steward? Well, the $80 million project's a pretty big commitment. So I would tell you, we wouldn't do that if we didn't think Puna was important. And we wouldn't do it if we didn't think it was growing. And that's really where almost all the growth on this side of the island will occur. So just from a business and a strategic perspective, we would be stupid to not be down here. So I think we want to be here and be here long term. I think a lot of the growth in our services will be for this population, because Hilo population predicted to be relatively flat, and you're looking at somewhere between 2 and 4% growth a year in Puna. That doesn't sound like a lot, but put that over 10, 15 years, you've added, your population has gone up a lot. Should do that math in my head. How will the design of the facility structurally and aesthetically reflect the community it serves? We also included in our materials, and if I'm sure you can get that if you'd like. So Fleming and Associate, who's designed a lot of the buildings around here and had been in the community a long time, they were very intentional in making sure the facility fit into the local aesthetic. Why it's one story, I kind of alluded to some of that, but if you want to get into the full process, I think he put almost a 2-page, a 1-page answer to really describe how he did the design. And I feel very comfortable that when you look at it, you're not going to go, what the heck, this looks like it should be in downtown Honolulu. You won't get that feeling at all. And will there be a focus on local hiring? And if so, what processes will support that effort? So we don't plan to have a geographical preference, but in general, when we do hiring and we post positions, our internals do have a preference. So my guess is a lot of our clinic staff who work up in Hilo will apply for those positions because they don't want to deal with the traffic. And we plan to accommodate that. I think that's a reasonable thing. And then if that doesn't fill them all, which it likely won't, or we'll have vacancies in Hilo, we'll probably do a job fair or something, or some training programs of sort to make sure that we don't create staffing issues. These jobs are generally pretty good paying jobs, and we feel like that we'll be able to staff the facility. One question that wasn't on here, but I was also asked, well, how are you going to get the providers to actually staff it? And while we are chronically chasing providers, we also have been making steady progress. We started our medical group about 6 years ago with, I think, about 8 providers. We're up to about 130. So they're very hard to get, but we can get them. And I won't go into all the challenges and how much it costs, but it is possible for us to keep this center staffed. So I'll stop there. I think
I had one other question, sorry. What about
sure.
energy? How are you? Is it just going to be straight electricity, or do you have any alternative energy plans within the building structure?
So it's interesting. I can speak to solar a bit because we did an actual pretty extensive study for solar in Hilo. So we're roughly in the same rainfall pattern, clouds and location and so forth. In general, because of the amount of cloudy days and the amount, the cost of upkeep, and then the structural stuff that you have to do for commercial installation, it wasn't the return on investment for the capital amount to put in the solar would be better spent in doing other things. And you wouldn't think that, like, what do you mean? It's so expensive. We spend $3 million a year on electricity, but we would be better off taking that money and investing it in like buildings and other things. So we don't plan to do solar at this time. Okay. All right. I can take any questions if from the audience.
So Leila,
If that's-
so actually, no, we have to take our commissioners first.
Oh, okay.
So Leila's on Zoom. What's your question, Leila?
You had mentioned before that you guys are partnered with like the East Hawaii or the Hawaii Health Clinics and Ka'u Hospital.
So they actually are us. So I know it's a little confusing, but all our outpatient clinics, East Hawaii Health Clinics, are part of the East region of Hawaii Health Systems Corporation and part of HHSC. So we employ, own, and manage all of those. We have just named them East Hawaii Health. So they are part of Ka'u Hospital, but Ka'u Hospital is also part of us. We have combined books and are a combined entity. I don't know if you go to Hilo Benioff Medical Center, you go to the cardiology clinic, you'll walk in and go to cards and it says the Department of Ka'u Hospital. And you're going, what the hell? I'm in Hilo Benioff Medical Center. Well, the reason you are is because Ka'u Hospital leases that space from Hilo Benioff Medical Center to operate the cardiology clinic in there. And you go, why the heck would you do that? It's because critical access hospitals are paid at 101% of their cost for Medicare and Medicaid patients. And cardiology is a very expensive service. So we put all of that in the cost-based federal program and not in the state program so we don't lose our shirt. That kind of pays for all the stuff, but it's a really, we get this question all the time. We have to explain it to people why, but we really all run as one business, and this business would also be part of the larger one. So we don't really separate. The management's the same for all of our clinics as for our hospitals, as for our outpatient centers. So I hope that answered your question.
That was the first part of my question. Thank you. And the reason why I ask is because does that mean that the clinic that's right there next to Long's, where the imaging and the urgent care and the PCP, like primary care providers, is that part of your folks?
Yes, it is. Yep.
And they'll move to this new medical center?
Yeah, what she asked is the urgent and primary care and urgent care clinic right next to Long's in the former Shipman office there, is that our facility or our clinic? And yes. And then we get asked, are you going to leave that open when you open the other? And we don't know yet. It's hard to get medical space of any kind. You have to generally build it. So, I mean, we could end up using it for something, but we will figure that out as we go. But yes, that is part of us.
Thank you.
So, and usually we don't take community questions, but is there anything burning? Oh. Okay, go ahead, Patty.
So, yeah, we get that question a good bit. Dialysis is a good bit like hospitals in that it's very expensive to operate and you need a certain, it sounds harsh, but a certain number of dialysis patients to make it work, which is why you have it up at the mall and then you have another one further up in Hilo. If you think that's a tough question here, talk to people in Ka'u, right? The challenge is aggregating the space and all the requirements to do it safely with a pretty small group of folks. And if you take the KL business that's here and put it in here, US Renal probably wouldn't operate it at all there because they have to have a certain number of patients to make it all work. This is every time we address this question, it really becomes a sustainability question. Could we do it? Sure, but would it work in the long run and we wouldn't have unintended consequences? Probably not. So it's just a tough one all around.
Go ahead, on Zoom, you have a question?
Yes, I do, and that's about let's see, the funding of it. So the Benioffs put up 25, Josh Green wants the state to put up 25. Well, then where does the other 30 come from? And also,
So,
and all,
oh, go ahead.
the other question is there transparency, does the public have any transparency into like some of the decision making and like, for example, the decision that money is better used for something other than solar. I would like to know exactly the details of how that was determined.
So two questions. One I think was how where'd all the money come from? I think was probably a good way to the first question. Then the second one, how are decisions made for things like solar or to not to have and so forth. So the first one, the big chunks for the $80 million for the facility, 25 million came from the state. That's actually getting distributed in 2027, and then $25 million commitment from the Benioffs as we build it. So as we build it, then we get pieces of it until the facility's completed. So it's not like we've got it right now, but there is a legal commitment to give us that money. And then the other 30 million, a combination of that is from some of the monies that the medical facility, the medical hospital or the organization, we put aside money every month, every year to fund capital projects, just like most businesses do. You got to keep your infrastructure up. So that's a piece of it. The other piece of it is we also put together financing like most of you do. If you build a house, most people don't build it with cash. You hopefully put a really big down payment on it, but then you have some sort of financing where you pay it off over time. So that's another component of it. And then there is a possibility we may go back to the ledge and ask them for a bit more, but I don't think it will be the rest. And I think a legitimate reason, and I think we could probably get some funding, is that we did move locations. That we have a really legitimate reason to to have another ask. So I'm quite confident that one way or the other, the money will be there. We have multiple ways to get to that $80 million cost. So I'm quite confident.
Okay, so if there's going to be a loan, then the count or the government then is also going to be signing up for that loan as well. So in a sense, the government is indirectly borrowing money for the project.
Okay, I'm going to recommend that possibly you connect after the meeting. I feel like he's adequately answered that question in the beginning.
Okay, well
Also
then the one
second
about the
question.
transparency into the.
He actually explained that in the beginning, but if you want to give a brief, quick overview.
Yeah, so the quick question on the solar is like almost any infrastructure investment we do, we try to actually operate both the hospital and our decisions to be industry based, right? So we go out and ask a consultant. If we don't have the expertise in house to look at just the facts, it's not an emotional decision. It's like, what does it cost to operate? What's the cost of the installation, the maintenance, the upkeep, and what's the return on investment? And if it makes sense, we put solar up. And if it doesn't make sense, we don't do it. So ultimately, that's my decision, unless my board disagrees with me. And that's how we get there.
Yeah,
okay,
so
thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I think we have one more question in the room.
That's a perfect Peggy question. So I am so glad that I was just waiting. When will we get Peggy involved? So here you go. Peggy Frias. She's CEO of Shipment Corporation. Here you go.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. We are actually selling the land to the medical center. It represents a major shift in our board's willingness of types of land transactions. We at first were not going to be able to sell it, and that's actually what led the medical center to look at the site that was close to Navajo School. When there was a lot of community outcry on that, we went back to our board and said, hey, can we please consider a sale so that we can make this happen in a location that makes a lot more sense for the community? So it is a land sale. We are planning to develop other in the area. So in both the community development plan and in our master plan, that area is slated as a hub for regional services. And so we are talking to the county about a new fire station, new police station, possibly other county services, being in that same area, pretty much right next to the medical center. And we are trying to find, we had a developer and then they pulled out. We're trying to find another development partner to work with to create a regional commercial center that would provide additional grocery store options, as well as some other retail options for Kea'au in that area as well. We are hopeful eventually that the county will also put a transit hub there to make it a lot easier to get to the medical center and the other services in the area.
Thank you. And I guess my request to you would be, as you develop some concrete plans, would you consider please coming to present to this commission and the alignment with the Puna CDP? So thank you so much. And Dan, thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I just want to say that watched you for many years, and I've just built a small school, but I know and understand the challenges of infrastructure and community service, and you are working miracles on behalf of all of us. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for the work you're doing. Mahalo nui. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we have another fabulous presentation ahead of us, and this is about the Puna Access Open Space and Natural Resource Preservation Commission. It's known as PONC presentation. And so we have our newly hired, do they have your name down here? I know your name is Ben, but I don't know, you're Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is going to present today. Ben has just been newly appointed to his position. I had the honor to be able to sit with him and meet with him for a whole day when Ashley had a summit, a PONC summit. And I am just really impressed with the expertise that he brings to us for this work. So I'm really excited to not only have you in this, where we've been really understaffed, but also to have you here to present to us. So thank you, Ben.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation to join you all today to speak with you. Thank you to the commission. Thank you to the planning department and others, and of course, all of you for joining. My name is Ben Shapiro. I recently joined the county just about 6 months ago and moved to the Big Island about 6 months ago. So I'm very new here. My family and I live over in HPP, so not too far away. So very happy here. I'm coming from about 12 years working for the federal government, where I worked on environmental conservation programs, largely in the international space, primarily in Latin America and South America. So most recently, my family and I were living in Ecuador and Colombia, elsewhere where I manage programs similar to the PONC program. So I'm very happy to talk to you today about this, and of course, to be part of this team. So as we get the slides up, maybe I'll just tell you a little bit about the PONC program. PONC stands for, as was mentioned, Public Access Open Spaces Natural Resources. And the C is commission, but I just call it the program because I think that makes more sense. So it's a program that was established about 20 years ago by voter referendum to protect and vital spaces here across the island. So thank you all for those who voted. Congratulations on an excellent initiative, and I'm very happy to be a part of it. So we can go to the next slide here, please. Thank you. Oh, it's got nice graphics. I didn't know that. So as I mentioned, the purpose of the PONC program is to preserve and protect natural beauty and cultural heritage of Hawaii Island by acquiring and protecting the most vital coastal, cultural, and natural resources for future generations. So once property is purchased by the county, it does go into preservation in perpetuity. So it can't be developed upon, and it is preserved forever. Next slide, please. So again, into the history, it's about 20 years old. It was on the ballot back in 2006 as a public referendum. The public voted to approve this. And what the public voted for was to take a certain percentage of real property tax money that the county receives and put that towards land preservation for conservation and for protection. So that was in 2006. And then back in 2012, it was adjusted slightly to add additional funding or additional opportunities to provide funding for the stewardship of those lands. So currently there's two sources of funding. There's a preservation fund, which is for the acquisition of these properties. And then there's the preservation fund, or the stewardship fund, which allows for the county to award small grants to community organizations, 501c3s, or those groups working under 501c3s to receive a small amount of money to work on stewardship and maintaining that property. Next, please. So to date, in those 20 years, the PONC program, with this great support of the council, with the PONC commission, with the public, has helped protect 30 properties across the island. And what that totals to is over 10,000, almost 11,000 acres have been protected and preserved for perpetuity for future generations. So that's a great accomplishment. So here in this slide, you can see a bit about what the preservation fund is, which is the fund that we use to purchase land. And there's 5 main attributes that that land nominated to the program needs to meet. For example, it could be for outdoor recreation, access to beaches and mountains. It can be for preserving historic or culturally important lands. It can be for protecting natural resources, preservation of forests, beaches, coastal areas, and agricultural lands. And for the protection of watersheds to preserve water supplies. So when, and I'll talk to you about the process next, but property that can fall or be considered under the PONC program has to meet one of these 5 criteria. So this is a bit about the process, because we get lots of questions about, I've got this property, or I know of a property, or my neighbor's property, or whatever it may be, and how do I get it into the PONC program? So this is the process here, and I'm happy to share the slides, or maybe the, some way to share these slides. They are on our, and I put them on our website as well, but there'll be a link to our website at the end so you can get them there. So the way that it works is that every year annually, and it's actually in January, it's not in February there, so please make note. At the end of February every year, there's a process where anyone can fill out a form, which is available also on our website, to nominate a property for consideration. And actually, you can nominate a property anytime throughout the year, but we kind of close the process for the year at the end of January. So if you know something now, you're welcome to fill out the form and send it to us, but we will consider it and we will send it to the commission at the end of January. So once we receive those forms, we then get reviewed by the commission, and the PONC program is managed by a public commission made up of 9 members representing each of the districts across the island. And that commission then reviews the suggestions as they were received. And they review them based on a certain criteria. So then the commission conducts field visits, meets with the nominators, meets with the community members, and gets a good feeling about why this property was nominated based on those 5 requirements, one of those 5 requirements, and they write up a report as to why it should be considered for the program, and they assign a scoring and a ranking for a list. That list is then prepared by the commission, it's prepared by us in the county, and we prepare an annual report every year by December 31st, which we then send to the mayor for their review. And that's also, of course, available on our website. So at the end of the year, we send it to the mayor. The mayor then has a few months to review, to consider, to ask us questions, to provide comments, whatever it may be. And then after 2 months or so, the report is then shared with council and made public. Council then takes the report and the ranked properties for the year, and then decides if they want to pass a resolution or have discussions about each of the properties or whatever they want to do, which just happened actually yesterday for a property we'll talk about shortly. And I'm sure, Susie here could talk about it, for Kumakahi just passed yesterday with a unanimous vote in council. So thank you to the council for that. Congratulations. And then once a resolution is passed, it goes, the resolution authorizes the director of finance to proceed with negotiations to acquire that land under the PONC program. So then once the resolution is passed, it goes back to the mayor's office, the administration, the Department of Finance to discuss, which of these properties should we pursue, which one should we enter into negotiations with, and what are the next steps there. So that is the full process, again, starting in January, and it's kind of a continual process throughout the year. So I wanted to highlight, a few of the properties here in Puna, which are probably of the most interest. Of the 30. There are 2 that are currently in Puna, Pohiki Bay, which was purchased in 2015, and then Waiale, which was purchased in 2021. There is another property, Honolulu Landing. You probably have heard of it. It's been on the list for quite some time, and we are hoping to close, I would say, by the end of the month. of May, well, the end of May, I should say. I was just speaking to the seller prior to the seller's agent prior to joining this meeting here. Things were looking very good and we were moving quickly on that. At the bottom here are the nominated properties. Some have resolutions, some do not have resolutions from council. And they are all here in Puna and Kumakahi here. You can see the top one was just passed yesterday by resolution. And there's a couple other that were on the 2025 annual list as well. So next slide, please. And here's just a map we put together. We are working on a map that will be up on our website using the GIS data of where the properties are. So just so you can see kind of where we are, where the properties are here in Puna. And the Kumakahi one, I believe, doesn't include all the TMKs, but you get the idea of kind of where it's located. So again, I just wanted to talk about the maintenance fund because one main point is acquiring the land and purchasing the land. So it's under the PONC program. The other part is the maintenance program or the maintenance fund. So those are the small grants which we can give to community organizations, 501c3s, others groups working under a 501c3. And that is a smaller amount. It is 0.25% of real property taxes. So it's a smaller amount, but we have a fair amount of money to give out to different organizations to help steward the land. And there is a list of requirements or a list of activities which are permitted primarily for stewarding the land and whatever, there can be cultural activities or educational activities and a number of other opportunities there to help, for example, promote safety, maintain healthy stewardship, and really work on land preservation because these lands, as I mentioned, cannot be developed. And if there is going to be any kind of building, it would need to be for some kind of cultural purpose or educational purpose as such, but not for any kind of development. And we in the Department of Finance work very closely with those organizations. We manage the funds, we manage the grants, we work very closely with grantees and applicants. And that's on a bit of a different timeline. Those grant applications will be opening very soon in July, and they are due in August. So if you're associated currently with a land that's already been acquired and are interested, please consider that or reach out to me, and we're happy to talk about that.
And Ben, just to clarify, that 3 million cap is the entire amount of money, not per organization. I'm aware of that. I just want people to understand that you can't be eligible for $3 million.
Thank you for clarifying that. Yes, the maintenance fund does have a cap, and it is capped at $3 million for all grants that we're able to give out. So we do have a healthy amount of money. It is well funded currently, and also the preservation fund is also relatively well funded as well. It's about $22 million currently that we have in that fund. That fund does not have a cap, but of course, as we draw that down, it gets replenished annually with the real property taxes, and we're working on making good decisions to acquire new land. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to point you where, if you wanted to read more about this or learn more about the specifics of the two different funds, it's located in the charter and the code, sections 10, 15, and 16 of the charter, and section 214 to 218 of the Hawaii County Code. So that's all the information there, and that really is kind of our guide as to what we're allowed to do, what's allowable, what's not allowable, and how we operate and how we proceed. Next slide, please. So this is my contact information, my email, my phone number. Please reach out to me anytime if you like more information, if you want to talk, if you have an idea. I'm always at my desk, so feel free to call me or shoot me an email. The ponc@hawaiicounty.gov is kind of the team email, so if I'm not available or if I'm out, someone else will be able to help you there. Our website there is openspace.hawaiicounty.gov, and we have this handy QR code that Shannon here helped us put together today. So thank you, Shannon. So if you scan that, it should take you to the website, hopefully. So, and I think that is it. There's a nice picture of Riley. So to end the presentation, but I think that's it for me. I'm happy to take any questions.
And just to comment that we are always looking just as with the CDP for commissioners. So we are looking for a Puna commissioner, even though the seat is full right now. We need to fill that seat because that position is vacating. So if anybody's interested, please join this. And also, I just want to say that Ashley did put on an amazing one-day summit, brought together finance department, all the different, whoever works with this process to really look at what's working and what isn't working so that we can help to streamline the process because it is cumbersome. It is really time consuming. And you have to be really committed to like Honolulu Landing was how many years on the A lot of years.
About 20.
About 20 years on the thing. So, and it takes willing sellers. So that was one of the amazing things about Kumukahi is that we have 14 parcels over 2,000, almost 2,000 acres, and we have 100% willing sellers. So it's kind of miraculous that we have that, and it's very, very culturally significant. So thank you for your support with that as we've gone through that and we continue to navigate so that Puna is really underrepresented. We only have, as you saw, like I think Kohala has 11 or 14. Anyway, Kona, Kohala, Ka'u, they all have way more properties that they've acquired than Puna. So we're underrepresented. So we're really looking forward to ensuring that our largest district is really well represented with preserved spaces for our next generation. Well, thank you, Ben, for your work. Is there any
Sure.
questions that anybody has? Go ahead, Matt. Welcome, Matt. Aloha, Councilman Matt.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the question was, how much money do we have in the fund? How many properties do we have? The value of those properties that we own or that we're looking at? Okay, thank you. Yeah, so the Ponk Preservation Fund, which is the fund that we use for purchasing land, has about $24 million currently. We are currently actively negotiating Honolulu Landing. And that one, I don't know if I can share that. I don't think I'm not supposed to, I don't know. I don't think that's public. Yeah, it's not quite public what that value will be. So I think I'm not supposed to say that. But what I can say is that that's the one that we are closest to closing on. There are a couple others that the mayor has expressed interest in, and we are at very preliminary stages of, potentially doing an appraisal on, but we haven't moved forward with those. So what I would say is that we have about 22, 24. After Honolulu Landing, we will have a very healthy budget still to purchase more land. Currently we have 30. We have 30 that we've acquired. Yeah. On the prioritized list. Okay. So thank you. So we maintain a prioritized list, which is every property that has been reviewed by the commission, which has been written up in an annual report, which either has which has a resolution or doesn't. So on the list of the prioritized list, there are about 30 different properties that are under consideration that have a resolution. We have not done that math because it would depend upon the appraisal, having an appraised value for each of those properties, which we haven't done because we only conduct appraisals if we have an intent to pursue the transaction. So I don't have an estimate of that right now. I wouldn't be able to say, but if there's 30 properties, that was very expensive. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so I'm new here. So yeah. No, thank you. So the question was, who is taking on the maintenance or stewardship of properties? So that is where we partner very closely with community organizations, NGOs, that have a 501c3 classification or work under an organization which has a 501c3 classification. So primarily through them, for example, here in Puna, we work very closely with Hawaii Environmental Restoration, Malamo Puna. Those are two that I know very closely. Of course, Susie's organization is potential steward for one of the sites we're considering. So an organization like that is who we'd be working closely with.
So Commissioner Leila Kealoha, do you have a question?
I do. Aloha, Ben. Ben, which seat do you sit on? Like which district are you in?
So I work for the county. So
He's staff. He's the newest.
yeah, I'm
for
a
the
staff
office.
member.
Well, thanks, Ben. I have a couple questions. Are you able to buy, is the Ponk able to buy state land?
That's a complicated question, and that's one that's come up with Kumakahi. That's something that we'd have to consider or look into how to do so. But if it was state land, the question would be why would we want to buy that, depending on what was classified as. So that one we have not done. It's been through private sellers.
So is it only, I mean, are the properties that are being nominated you're only able to purchase like by private landowners, like nothing that's county or state?
Well, if it's a county land, then the county already owns it and is using it for whatever purpose it may be, and similarly with the state. So I know for Kumakahi, for example, some of those parcels are state land, and from my understanding, if we were to proceed with that, there's a discussion about possibly the state legislature having an executive order, or the governor having an executive order, which would allow that parcel of land to be maintained, or I'm not sure the classification, but to be managed by the PONC program or the steward,
Or an easement.
or an easement of some sort. Yeah, so maybe I should clarify that. There are different types of acquisitions. One is a fee simple, where the county then owns the property, and then there is a conservation easement, where we don't own the property, we own the easement, or we're holders or co-holders of that easement. That's an important clarification. Thank you.
Okay. And then my other question is, because I know this is a thing, is how do you feel about multiple people stewarding one parcel? Like multiple organizations?
That is a great question, and that is taking place here on Waiale, where you've got Hawaii Environmental Restoration and Malamo Puna both working on Waiale. I went to visit Waiale and met with Eileen and met with Diga. And we walked through Waiale, which was a great visit just about a month or two ago. And that question came up, and I asked them, why are you both here? What are you doing? How do you work together? How's it going? I asked them, there, and I asked them both individually, just to make sure I got a fair answer. And I think it is possible. There would need to be a good justification or rationale as to why. And for example, with those two organizations on Waiale, the understanding is that they do different things. They're focused on different things. They work very closely together. They've got a good relationship, and they know what each is doing. They communicate and coordinate regularly, and they've got different lines of effort. So we've discussed this also internally of what happens. That's great for Waiale, but what if it's not necessarily two organizations that are so close as Malama Puna and Hawaii Environmental Restoration? So we've discussed this, and we don't have necessarily a firm rule on it right now, but I think the groundwork that we would like to see is very similar to what we see in Waiale, where it's two organizations that have proven they're going to do different things. They're not going to be overlapping. They've got a commitment to coordinate and to collaborate, to work together, and it's for a good cause. It makes sense. There's a reason to do so. Otherwise, why have two? Why not just have one? So I think it'd be a specific case by case.
Yeah, because I've seen it happen down at Poiki. There's two different organizations working on that parcel down there as well too. But so how is the funding being distributed right now? Is the process gotten faster? Because I know this has been an issue over the years with getting those funds, those preservation funds, into the hands of the community. Have we
That's why
figured
we
out?
had the all-day summit with Ashley, just because to try to figure out those processes.
Yeah, I'm just curious how that's going, because what do you call it? That's been the issue over these past 3 or 4 years, 5 years or so. Are we getting anywhere with that? Like, because that's kind of a thing, right? If the cap's only at
Yeah.
3, where does that, once that 0.25% goes into and the cap is at 3 million, and it's just stayed there for a couple of years or whatever it is, does that extra money go into the maintenance funds? I'm just curious, like, first of all, are we getting closer to a process to really move that money into the hands of the community doing the work on these parcels for the stewardship? Sorry, Ben.
Yes.
You're new, but what do you call
No
it?
worries.
I
No,
appreciate
that's the job. That's the job. So no worries. So yes, we are working on moving things forward and making things go faster and smoother. And that is why Councilmember Kirkowitz had the PONC Summit back in March. That's why we're continuing conversations with her. And we internally in the property management team and the Department of Finance are continuing to discuss regularly what operational practices we can implement without any changes to charter or code to make things faster, to make things smoother, to make things more efficient. So one of the big changes, especially for me, that has come about is creating a space or a staff member that is fully dedicated to the PONC program. So my job was created to work only on the PONC program. So I don't do other property transactions. I don't work on inventory of other items. I just focus on PONC 24, well, not 24/7, but between business hours. So that is what I was brought on to do. So that's one thing that was identified as a need, is more staff. Another staff position was created. Her name is Athena. She's a property program service technician, I believe. And she was brought on also to work part-time or part of her time on the PONC program. So one thing is staffing up, and we recognize there's been a lot of staff turnover, some gaps in staffing, and the county has worked to address those and fill those positions. We are also looking at how to move things forward. We know there were some lags in payments being made, in grants being executed, and we have set a really I would say strict or really clear timeline for ourselves internally as to when things are due, when we have to get things reported or passed up or to council or to commission or whatever we need to do, wherever it has to go, or back to the community organizations. And so far, at least since I joined, we've hit every deadline or been early for every deadline that has come across that we've been required to do. We've also been discussing internally about timelines. For example, I know you're asking about the maintenance fund, but for example, the preservation fund, right now the site visits are taking place, we're here in April, but the report isn't due technically until December. So the question is, well, what happens between April and December? So yes, there's, commission meetings. They meet every 2 months. They have to vote. They have to score. They have to rank, follow sunshine law, all those kinds of things. But we're thinking about, well, if all the scoring is done in July, why can't we get this turned around by September or October, or at least cut off a couple months for our own process? And that's something we hope to do this year is, not have it come out in December, but maybe go to the mayor's office a couple months earlier if we can get that done. So we're hoping to do that on the preservation and sun fine on the annual report. So we are trying to implement things without having to go through charter and code, because that's not, necessarily where we work at our level, at the staff level, but operationally, management principles we're trying to implement to make things go smoother.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ben.
And I just want to add one thing, that when the Department of Finance presented, they have extremely strict accountability for the grant funds like I've never seen, even on a federal level. So actually, I was really happy to hear that. So it's good. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. The question was if there's any parameters of size of lots, small or big, for it to be considered for the PONG program. The answer is no. Kumakahi, for example, as nominated, is about 2,000 acres, and some properties are less than an acre or an acre in size. So Yep. Depending on the needs, if it's the most important thing is to, one, fit the requirement of those 5 categories, which I described, or which are described at the it's in the charter and it's in the code, but one of those 5 categories, and then make a compelling case in the nomination and your suggestion form as to why this property should be considered. And then of course, come to the commission meeting where it's discussed. Again, make that compelling case. Same thing when it goes to council and committee. So just continually making that case like Susie and team have done to why this is so important. Sure.
Okay, thank you, Ben. I think you can reach out to Ben if you have any future questions. He's provided his contact information. Otherwise, just go on the PONC website.
Sure.
Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time, and I'm sure you wouldn't mind sticking around if people had a few questions for you
No
afterwards.
problem. Yep.
He also speaks Spanish. No.
See.
Okay, so the time is now 6:29. We will take public testimony on matters not on the agenda. So this agenda item is provided pursuant to Hawaii State Bill 869, 2025, signed into law as Act 53. Testimony may be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Please note, the committee may listen and ask brief clarifying questions, but generally will not deliberate or take action on items not on the agenda. So do we have any, before we move on to propose new business, which I know we have one request for, is there any public testimony on matters not on the agenda? No.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, just really quick. I just wanted 10 seconds to wrap up. My earlier question had to do with whether the public has any transparency into these public-private partnership decision-making, such as using solar or using the money for some other purpose. Anyway, the question I really wanted to ask, and this could be directed to whoever on the committee could best answer, and that is the Puna development plan in the process of being updated? Is it supposed to match up with the county plan? And have people been looking at what they're proposing for the county plan, like the one that Ashley has written? Could somebody answer that?
Could you please state your name for the record? And
Oh,
we
Dave
appreciate you.
Webb.
Is it possible for you to have your camera on?
I can't get my camera to work. Maybe next
Okay.
time.
Give us your name,
Sorry.
please.
It's Dave Webb. I'm in Kapoho.
Dave Webb, Kapoho. Okay, I could start with answering and maybe somebody, I know that or actually, Matt, you'd probably be able, the best person to answer that, the status of the general plan. I believe that the general plan is under review right now. Is there a timeline for that? And then we will not reconsider, or we will review the Puna CDP to make sure that that aligns with the general plan. That will require a whole process to undergo, but that won't happen until the general plan has been approved. And Matt, would you mind giving us an update on the general plan? You can come up here so that people can hear you. And I think there was part of that was not only just that, yeah, about Ashley.
Aloha, thank you for the question.
By the way, thank you for being here tonight. Mahalo.
Yep, no, thank you. This is well, not your council representative, but Council Representative Matt Connie of the E. Kleinfelder. General plan is currently being reviewed by the county, and there have been some amendments proposed, but is not passed. And I don't think there's actually a clear date on when we're going to be passing that. It just keeps moving. It has cost us a substantial amount of funding to get to where we are today, about 3.7 million, if I remember correctly, given our last budget discussions. And I think Susie's, Miss Osborne's answer regarding the process between general plan and the Puna Community Development Plan was very much appropriate. I hope that answers your question. It's probably not as much of a direct question answer as you're looking for, and I do understand your question. But this is the way the process for the general plan proceeds. It is lengthy. It takes a lot of input. There's a lot of community meetings and council meetings and back and forth between administration, council, and community to get it done.
Thank
It's
you.
been a process.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I'll just briefly answer your former question, and I'm not sure, I think you must have missed the beginning of Director Dan from the hospital's presentation, but he said that they have a governing board that is made up of community members, and the governing board makes the decisions for whatever development is occurring. And then including solar, and that was really a cost analysis, the basis of that decision. But there is community input, and I'm not sure beyond that, and he's not here, so I can't really further answer that question. Thank you for your questions.
But somebody's going to make the final decision, and it may not be the public.
It's a governing board, like most organizations have a governing board. So, but thank you for your questions. I'm going to move on to the next agenda item right now, and that is proposed new business. Do any committee members have any agenda items to propose for a future agenda?
Chair, if I could.
Oh, please go
We're
ahead.
still on the public testimony.
Well, we were.
Oh, yeah. Did you have some public testimony?
I did actually.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Listening to the conversation today, do I need to say my name again?
No, I got you.
Thank you. What I appreciated today was the action committee speaking to different items that are happening that relate directly to the Puna Community Development Plan. And I'm listening to Mr. Brinkman discuss the upcoming Kea'au Benioff Medical Center. Even that they listened to community and moving it from one location to another, which was ideal.
Yes.
And hearing the shipman's involvement and understanding they needed land. But also I wanted to touch on the importance of the county piece there, which is the police and fire station beginning to come up as a new project. And both the fire department and the police department prioritized that project above all else, understanding the need in our district. At one point in the conversation, Mr. Brinkman said something, quote unquote, "We understand this is the new population center. We need to build accordingly." And he is absolutely correct. The density in Puna is growing, specifically Kea'au, which is in the community development plan listed as a primary hub for both mass transit and as a community center, is being built out. And that is exactly what was supposed to happen from folks like Stephanie Bath, who put this together way, way back in the day. Ms. Pinto touched on connectivity. The alternate route study is coming to a conclusion. And as all of these pieces begin to come together, what we're going to see and what your committee should be prepared to look at is making sure that the plan as a whole lays out beautifully, and that the state and the county and our federal partners, because Volcano National Park continues to be both a beautiful income stream for our county, but also it has its wear and tear on our own infrastructure. But looking at this plan as a whole, parks, public facilities, hospitals, infrastructure, roads, water, sewer, and how all of that comes together to make this beautiful. If it's not done now, and I've been pressuring for a long time, if it's not done well now, it'll be a disaster in the future.
Matt, do you think they've made any progress, fire and police, on any sort of design for that site? Or, I mean, that would be something that we would ask them to come and present to us also. So, I mean, we've asked Shipman over the last 9 years I've been on this commission to please come and keep us updated on their plans, and asked again today. But do you know if fire or police has made any progress on their vision?
Both fire and police prioritize the project, which is huge. Because last year it wasn't the same discussion during budget hearings. The mayor has asked the different departments to start looking at design that they like. And then for reference for the community, the Pahoa station, police and fire station, that was always designed and continues to be a substation. It was never designed to be the main station. And reason being, when an officer responds to a call from Pahoa to a call in Volcano, they go to Volcano and they have to return back to their station. That's almost an hour of lost time and their ability to provide more calls for service. And so this KL police and fire station combination with training or with mass transit begins to fulfill the need of our stations now, which are in bad shape, and cut down on the lost time of travel between Pahoa and the entire region of Puna, which is growing exponentially.
So I think part of our kuleana as a commission is to, help bridge that gap between community and these, public services, and put a fire under things if possible and support these important initiatives. And also if there's a misdirection that we try to, to do that. So do you think it would be a benefit to us, even if they aren't in the design phase yet, to ask them to come and present, just so that we could hear as community that this is prioritized and that they are beginning some vision? Would that be appropriate?
Completely. And I would also include our Parks and Recreation division, because you have Shipman Park, Buddy Perry Field, you have the Shipman Industrial area, you have the need for connectivity and larger alternate routes between Hilo and Puna, and then you have police and fire station and mass transit all walking in at the same time.
Do you think that Lonnie is representing your district? Do you think you'd be able to work with her on trying to get some of these people to speak to them, to have them come here? Would that be?
Not only am I willing, but she's also a great representative for our side of the district.
Yeah. So, and then just Matt, just for your information, I've been really working closely with Ashley's office on some of the initiatives that she's putting forward. And one of the things we're able to do as a body is provide letters of support, like for the native plants, or some of the really great things that she's putting forward. So I'd really encourage you to let us know what some of the important things in your district are, so that we can provide. Obviously, we only meet every other month, so you have to be a little proactive in terms of your planning of something going to go before council. But we are able to provide support testimony, and I just want to make sure and offer that, so that we can help you with some things that are important to you for your district, which again, we know is really underrepresented. And I see many folks, yeah. And the library, yeah. Well, we have had presentations, but it might be good to have another one also. Yeah.
Thank you for that offer. My request right now would be, yes, please, support the police and fire station and make sure that happens. I'm stepping out in 6 months. Whoever comes in after me is going to need to pick up these projects and run. And working together as both the action committee with the administration with our planners, our punk fund folks, our community members to make sure we get what we need is imperative because you folks actually maintain while we change. So yes, please. And I'll work with Lei to get going.
And I'm really to help in any way too. You know, I'm just newly on this chair position, but I really want probably the year that I have here to be really impactful. So just please communicate and let us know what your needs are. And I see Leila, Commissioner Leila, have you have a question?
I do, Matt. When do they expect to have the PMR study done? You had mentioned that was coming up.
I believe it's already done. And now we are going to be running through the findings with the associated communities that may be affected by the route, and then running through the community discussions that need to take place to ensure that we're doing it correctly and in alignment with what's needed. And these kind of projects are always going to have people on both sides of the issue. But ultimately, the findings and the study help us direct the project and the funding, and these are multi-year, very expensive projects, and they take a lot of coordination as far as CIP funding, state funding, even federal funding, and to get all those pieces together, have a design, the study to back it up, the community meetings to back that up, equals a good project. If not, it can fall apart halfway through.
Is the county running those meetings, or is that something through the ledge?
County is currently organizing those meetings. This will be a county project. I did get a text from one of our lovely state legislators offering funding this year, but because we weren't quite ready and waiting on the study, that we declined the funding this year. But we'll be hopefully getting that in future years.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Stephanie?
Matt, when will the public get to see the plan? The county's gonna for the PMAR.
I'm not sure. So the Department of Public Works is running. They did the study. Study has been concluded. Now they're reaching out to the community partners affected. I think when they organize those meetings, that's when they're going to walk in and create the meeting spaces and have the community members come in to be there for the discussions.
The reason why I'm asking is because it doesn't just impact the impacted communities like HPP and stuff. It affects the other communities that HPP and all the traffic is going through. So I think I'd like to suggest that the community at large get invited to these meetings and just not the impacted, or at least that we have some way to give input.
Thank you, Stephanie. I completely agree. All too often you'll hear, not my district, or that's Puna Makai, that's not Puna Mauka. We all end up on Highway 130 to get to Hilo, even folks from Volcano, Ka'u, and South Kona. So if we don't look holistically at the solution of what works best for everybody, then we're failing the people of Puna. So I completely agree. When I know more, I'll share it with you folks as well as the public.
Thank you, Matt.
And we really welcome your attendance here. So
thank you.
Thank you for coming.
You're doing a great job, by the way. Thank you very much.
Mahalo. Oh, I'm sorry. She had two more.
No, not for Matt.
Oh, not for Matt. Okay, so what?
So let's see here. Thank you, Patty, as always, for your report on connectivity. One of the things that I'd like to recommend in this year, because of the build out, the Puna Community Development Plan determined that the connectivity should be throughout Puna. And right now, it's been real slow to get some connectivity. It is critical that we acquire all of the parcels because build out is happening at such a rapid rate that if we don't do it now, our options are going to be lost. And if we had done it 10 years ago, we could have picked up parcels for $10,000, which are now going for 55. So I think that this needs to be a critical must do this year. We don't have to open them up, just acquire them, maybe buffer them with some open space. I've spoken to first responders, and it's not just about getting up onto Highway 11. They have to respond from, let's say, Orchid Land. They have to go all the way down and out and up into Hawaiian Acres, losing time using fossil fuel. So it's the interconnectivity as well as the highways. So that's what I have to say about that. And then another thing is food security. for our island. We see what's happening with fuel and the whole global thing, and maybe what I'd like to see is some attention on this let's see, committee to focus on food security issues, possibly having incentives for people that are growing food. That's all I have.
Okay, so just for everyone's information, hopefully every meeting, Patty will be able to be giving us an update as a standing agenda item, even though it's not directly listed, it's under county. So that, and you are welcome to speak to Patty about those things on the side. We'll be meeting with planning for our next agenda, and if you have a proposal on something you want around food security, you can maybe figure that out, help us present that. Any other committee members have things that they'd like to see on the next agenda? Layla?
I'd like to see where we're at with all of our killer recovery projects and an update on our killer recovery projects.
That's gonna be difficult. Well, that's gonna be difficult without Patty. Is that something you can do? Yeah, okay. Patty can do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So let's see now. If you have any additional ideas, please contact either myself or Leilani or the CDP team here. So now I believe we have a request for a new agenda item or a new providing comment on a new item. Did you want to come forward? This is Judy. How?
Yeah, that is a lot of heat coming through. Okay, hot seat, yeah. Aloha, I'm Judy Houle from Hawaiian Paradise Park. I am the co-chair of the Sustainable Development Committee. We're here to ask your assistance pertaining to a proposed commercial development by Ohana Foods and Gas and the Pacific Realty Organization, LLC. Carl Okuyama and Richard Wheelock in March invited HPP residents to watch their PowerPoint presentation on building a 20,000 square foot grocery store and gas station on 20 acres in HPP. Currently, the land is owned by Wanamal Investment Company and located on Kaloli Drive between 25th and 24th Avenue. And then I gave the parcel number on the paper here. The zoning is currently Ag 1. And we cannot see that on the deed that it states it's zoned commercial. Carl stated Wanamal owns 6 20-acre parcels in HPP that were originally for commercial development. But we found in the original deed it was intended for residential use. The deed restrictions then sunsetted on December 31st of 1986, reverting to the land use to Ag 1A. Richard Wheelock, Pacific Realty Organization, LLC, said he is in escrow to privately purchase the land. Carl Okuyama of Ohana Foods said he's planning on a phase 2 to build a larger 40,000 square foot grocery store, restaurant, medical center, and police station on these 20 acres. How does a shopping center get permits to build in an agriculturally zoned Ag 1A private subdivision with substandard roads, no water lines, no sewers, no sidewalks, no lights, no Mackay entrance or exit ramps onto Highway 130, and no entrance onto Kaloli Drive or Shower Drive during the rush hour off of Highway 130? This is clearly a safety issue and an economic burden on our Hawaiian Paradise Park property owners who pay for road maintenance. Increased traffic would create hazardous safety conditions for cars, pedestrians, and bicyclists, causing an increased potential for accidents, injuries, noise, crime, air and soil pollution, and well water contamination. During their presentation, they stated that they will not be improving the roads, not paying additional road fees for commercial use, will be hauling in county water, and plan to build their own road off Cololi Drive, which is not allowed by our bylaws. The conceptual plan they presented showed access roads onto 24th Avenue and 25th Avenue halfway down the parcel. This would affect the neighbors that live there and those trying to access Cololi Drive. Their large trucks will be driving up and down Cololi Drive or Paradise Drive off of Highway 130, delivering gas, food, and hauling water on substandard narrow roads with no shoulders and no streetlights. What is the planning and permitting process that allows this sizable commercial enterprise to be permitted, and how does our community protect itself from developers wanting to make a profit at our expense? They stated they will apply for a special use permit. They also stated that a traffic engineer's traffic impact analysis report is in progress. They stated that they will follow up with a meeting, and this has not happened yet. Will they be required to do an archaeological study, environmental assessment, grubbing and grading permits, and hold public hearings with the planning commissioners? How do we check on their progress and if the steps are being done correctly? What are the county and state requirements before a commercial developer can build in a private Ag 1A zone community, such as requiring the infrastructure improvements and safety measures to be done first? That about wraps it up. We need you. We need your help.
Just curious if you have you tried to make an appointment with Planning Director Jeff Darrow to discuss this?
Yeah, that would be the next step. Yeah.
I think that is a concurrent step, and I think this is something that maybe we can put on, maybe, could you get this electronically to your testimony, and maybe we could draft a letter of concern to the planning director, and then I would really strongly recommend you set up a meeting with him and go over this. And Matt, any other suggestions you might have? About this? I mean, obviously, yes, they're gonna have to go through all the, assessments and everything, but oh my goodness.
I don't know anything about this project. This is new to me. New to me, so I won't go too much into everything you just said. There's two interesting pieces to this. One, there is the want to do the county park,
Yes.
which is on the parcel directly adjacent to the Watermill investment. And I believe that county park was also was being walked in the door in the hopes of perhaps getting infrastructure to that area, which leads to your question of how they're going to run with what infrastructure provided to them. That should be reviewed. If there's an SMA permit applied for, the planning department will have to hear the public and the concerns, and that'll come in front of the public at that time. That would be your time to come in as a community and speak to what does or does not work, or what your concerns are, and they'll hear that in their SMA hearings or special permit hearings.
That happens after they've applied for all the permits and after the special use permit has been applied for, and then.
They'll have to apply. I would check in with Jeff Darrow, Director Darrow.
Yeah.
I understand that because I went through this process, that they have to contact everyone within 500 feet
Yes.
of the area and then submit the evidence. And then they have to go before the planning, I think they have to put up signage, and then they have 90 days before they go before the planning commission, at which time they're heard. At least that's the way I did it.
I also would understand, given that it's Ag 1 and they're wanting to do commercial, they'll probably have to rezone. that would be the portion of the project that'll come in front of the county because rezones always come in front of the county. Subdivisions can happen with director approval, but a rezone requires council approval and at least 3 public hearings because it's a bill. And so the county constituents who are affected by the project would have at least 3. If it went fast forward to the council, it'd be 1, 2, 3 hearings, 2 weeks apart. So you'd have 6 weeks of testimony and time to spend in front of the council discussing concerns or joys of the project as the community sees fit.
Okay. Yeah, we just want to make sure that we're notified of each step of the process so that we have people there and involved.
Because the county parcel next door is exactly the same size and on the same frontage, I would check in with your council representative and Director Darrow from Planning Department to see what's going on in that entire area, what the plan is for that portion as a whole. And I do believe in the Puna Community Development Plan, there is a portion in there that calls out the neighborhood park or the commercial center. So that, this could be an interesting back and forth between community, what the plan was 30 years ago, that draft that got us to
What
this
the
point,
community wants or doesn't want.
and what you want.
We don't want urbanization.
But a great tie into the action committee.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Matt.
So if you wouldn't mind sending this electronically, and then could you come
So
maybe,
what's the email that I should be sending it to?
Yeah, Hawaii.
can you get that after the meeting? And then maybe could you come back at our next meeting and give us an update if you're able to meet with Councilwoman Kirkowitz and also Director Darrow in the planning department, and then we'll see what's at the appropriate time, what steps the commission would take to support or not support. Thank you.
Appreciate your help. Thank
Sure.
I just had one comment for her.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on, Commissioner Kaloha.
Yes, I just wanted, can we share with her too where to find the Puna Community Development Plan? Because in there, it does state about the Hawaiian Paradise Park Regional Town Center and the village centers that are proposed for that area as well too. So it is conflicting, like what do you call it? If she can know where to access that and like read through the plan as well too. And just, but to please come back because it sounds crazy to me to put a gas station in the middle down there.
So I believe it's on the county website, if you go under county website and then there's planning department and then they'll have the different CDP. So it's the Puna CDP plan, and there's a specific plan and there's and that's all called out, as Matt said, in the plan. So it'd be good for you to familiarize yourself with the plan.
They're also in the libraries. You can get a copy from the library.
Yes, I do that.
Okay, great.
I was just going to say that the CPC is also working on the cultural aspects of this development and why it should not occur.
Okay, great. Okay, so thank you, everyone. Announcements. The County of Hawaii announces the launch of the Coastal Zone Management Atlas, a new online tool that helps the public explore the island's coastal hazards and ecosystems. The atlas can be viewed using the link provided in the agenda under announcements. The Planning Department will be hosting 2 informational webinars to introduce the atlas, provide useful navigation tips, and answer any questions. The April webinar has passed, but the next one is scheduled for May 7th from 10 to 11 a.m. The same content will be covered in both webinars. Register for the May 7th webinar using the link provided. So I think to everybody this agenda was available, so you'll have that. And the second announcement is that, as I mentioned earlier, the Planning Department is seeking applicants for the Puna CDP. They want to get rid of me? No. And the application is available on the county website. And our next Puna Action Committee meeting is scheduled for Thursday, June 25th, 2026. I will be turning 70 on June 24th, 2026. So I've told Lay that she's got to take the lead because I'll be out of the country. So you won't have the pleasure of my everything I do. So, but I really want to thank everybody for taking the time to be with us tonight and your interest and your engagement in our growth and development and bringing forth concerns. and celebrating the successes. I especially thank Matt and his beautiful wife Dawn for joining us tonight, and for all the work that the commission does, and for our supportive staff. You guys are amazing.
One question.
Okay.
When an applicant applies for the, any CDP, what is the timeline? Because I've had an applicant that's been trying to apply and anyway, I'm just wondering how long it takes for them to be approved.
I can talk to you offline.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
It's
yeah.
with the mayor's office.
Yeah,
so
with
it's-
Micah, yeah,
So
Yeah.
there's a whole process, so.
yeah, okay.
Okay, I think for now, we shall call a meeting to, we'll adjourn the meeting. I will now adjourn the meeting at 7:01. And again, thank you also very much for coming tonight. Mahalo nui. Drive safely.
Aloha.
Take care of your ohana. Ahui ho.